Okay. All right, y'all. Look, Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin was on Club Shay Shay. This is Shannon Sharp's podcast, right? They just recorded the podcast, I think just like last week or something like that. And there's a lot of viral clips that came out of this podcast. All right. So I'm going to be reacting to all the viral clips that came from the podcast with Kirk Franklin and Shannon Sharp. And let me just say this up front. I've been very critical of Kirk Franklin in a lot of videos in the past. And I'm gonna keep it real with you. Sometimes I feel like I'm like too harsh on people. Sometimes I feel like I rebuke too hard. And I was up last night. It was like 3 a.m. Like 3 a.m. I fell asleep on the couch. Right, I couldn't sleep, and I started to scroll on TikTok, but then I was like, you know what? Instead of scrolling on TikTok, let me just listen to the Bible. So I opened the Bible app. I pressed play wherever it left off. And it was in Colossians, right? And it went all the way through Colossians. And then I think it got all the way to like 2 Timothy. And then I was like out by then, right? But somewhere in the mix. So I don't know if it was in Colossians or in Timothy. I heard a verse that I never heard before, or at least I wasn't paying attention. And it was saying something along the lines of like, young men, instead of like rebuking the older men in the church, simply pray for them. And I don't know if I interpreted that verse correctly. And maybe, one of y'all can find that verse. It's either in Colossians or Timothy, and y'all could put it down in the comments. But it just made me think like, instead of always just looking at like the negative side of what people are saying, especially in church, instead of just always looking for that clickbait and always looking for that next, viral title so that I can benefit from it. So let's just keep it real. Instead of just looking for those moments, why don't I also look for the positive? Because I don't think that everything that everybody says is all bad 100% of the time. I think even people who we don't agree with, even people who we may not, like, whether you want to admit that or not, I think there's still some wisdom and there's still some type of value that we can pull from them and that we can apply and use in our own lives. And maybe y'all agree with that and maybe you don't agree with that. But even going a step further, it makes a lot of sense for us to simply pray for these individuals and not go so hard on them. I mean, everyone sees what's up. Everyone has discernment, at least a certain level of discernment. Everyone knows when something doesn't sound right or when something's off, right? Instead of us hyper focusing on the negativity, why don't we hyper focus on sending prayers for these individuals? Because the fact of the matter is, when it comes to somebody like a Kirk Franklin, he has a very wide impact and influence on a lot of Christians, right? And I don't want to see people like this fall. And even like a TD Jakes video that I made yesterday, I may not agree with everything that they say, but at the same time, I don't want to see these people fall, because that has massive impact on the church. That has massive impact on Christians, right? And whether they're moving correctly or not, whether they're doing the right things, whether they're being, proper stewards of the blessings that God has bestowed on their life or not, I think the best thing that we could do is send prayers out to them so that they could hopefully realize and reflect and go to God and start to walk in the right direction. So I'm just gonna say that I'm just gonna say that up front. But with that being said, I'm gonna start with this clip. Now, this is gonna go against everything that I just said because this is kind of a crazy clip. But he said it. I didn't say it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't put no gun to his head and tell him to say this. He said this on his own. So let's start with this clip from the podcast, and then I'll give you my thoughts on it. All right, let's go.
So many songs that have blessed people have been written butt naked. Next question.
Really?
But not one sock on. I straight out the bed. But if you come over to my house, don't sit on that piano bench. Sit on that piano bench. That piano bench ain't had nothing but cheeks on that piano bench. For Jesus. Next question.
Bruh, he said cheeks for Jesus. That reminded me of when Tim Ross said the only stripper that we make it rain on is Jesus or something like that. Cheeks for Jesus is crazy. You know what's even crazier? There's a couple things that's crazy about this statement. Number one, I don't know. Hold on.
That have blessed people.
Hold on. Look at Shannon's face when he said this. Hold on.
Have been written butt naked. Next question.
Really?
Look at his face. Look at that smirk. Did you see that smirk? Hold on. I can't rewind it for whatever reason. I can't rewind it. Look. He said he roll out of bed butt naked and make worship songs and gospel songs. I feel a little violated. I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel a little violated. Also, I don't know. That's not a comfortable way to sleep, Kirk. It's really not. It's not. That don't seem healthy. Put some drawers on at least. You know what I'm saying? But could you imagine this? Imagine this. Because I feel a little violated. And I don't really listen to Kirk Franklin songs all that much. I really only listen to like most recently, he did that collab album with Maverick City. There's a couple songs on that album that I like that I was listening to here and there because they were good songs, right? No, regardless of how you feel about like Maverick City or Kirk Franklin, let me ask y'all a question. Is listening to like Maverick City or Kirk Franklin, is that worse than listening to like Future or like Lil Durk or like, Drake? Is it worse than that? Or would y'all put it in the same category? I'm just curious, right? But anyway, imagine this for a second. Imagine this. Imagine if I told you every video that I made, I ain't had no pants on. It's just cheeks to seat. Ain't no fabric in between. You would feel kind of violated, wouldn't you? It's kind of weird. Like, it's like some things you don't need to say. And for the record, I got pants on and I always got pants on. But some things you just don't need to say. And the fact that you write music for the Lord with no pants on, no drawers, no fabric to separate you from the seat at all, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy, in my opinion. That's kind of crazy. Let's move on to the next clip. This is a clip. Oh, you know what? I actually like this clip. Let's watch this clip.
I've even had my struggles with God. I've had my private struggles with God because I am a Christian that believes in the sovereignty of God, means that I believe that everything God allows or God creates, that nothing passes to us that doesn't go through God's hands first, that God can either stop things or God allows things for a greater reason. I humbly believe that. That's my humble biblical view of the sovereignty of God. So God and his sovereign plan allowed me to be raised without my daddy. And my daddy lived 10 minutes from me the majority of my life. Not having a daddy, we know what the stats say. The stats say a young child raised with his father and mother has a better chance of survival.
Absolutely.
We all know the stats,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So not having a child and not having a father, I got into a lot of trouble, learned a lot of inappropriate ways of survival with women and sexuality and different things, and made a lot of mistakes, to develop a lot of bad habits. Now, mind you, Mr. Rick was a kid himself.
Right.
He was a kid himself, but I didn't have a dad. God in his sovereign plan allowed that to stay away. In that, I developed some bad ways without having a male figure in my life, a male figure in my life. And some of those ways, when I became a Christian, now God calls those things sin. Mm-hmm. But in his plan, he kept some things away that could have helped some things not turn into these bad sins that I struggle with. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So now there are things in me that God don't like, but also the things that he allowed.
He helped create.
So I've had my own private, and this is the first time I've ever said this publicly. I've never said this before. And me and God have had struggle. And somebody would say, well, you don't know what kind of man Mr. Rick was. He could have been a bad influence. You don't know what kind of man Mr. Rick could have been if he had a response, if he would have had
a responsibility of having a son.
Because me and you as men know, them kids grow you up.
Yeah.
And there's certain things that you gotta now,
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't know. And I'm not saying that I know. I'm just being transparent to say I've privately struggled. I've had my war. Like, I'm quite sure everybody listening to me, if you've never had anything you are like, God, why you take my mama? God, why you do this?
Of course.
If you've never had a war with God, you ain't never had no relationship with God.
Right.
Because if you got a relationship with God, you've had some wars with it.
Of course, there have been questions.
Yes.
You know, I appreciate this is the circumstance where I appreciate the transparency. The last clip, yeah, you could have kept that one, Kirk. Let me expand on what he was saying. A lot of things that happen in our lives, they don't make sense. And it could cause us to question, why are you allowing these things to happen, God? But you know what also doesn't make sense? What also doesn't make sense is why we're rebellious towards God in the first place. Just as a human race, as human beings, why are we rebellious towards our Creator, who has nothing but love and positivity in his heart towards us? Why are we rebellious to the greatest thing that has ever and will ever happen to us? Because the fact of the matter is, God did not create us to be sinful. He created us to be like him in his image, to be perfect. We chose the sinful lifestyle. We chose that path. That's the path that we wanted. It's crazy because this morning I was supposed to get a haircut, and I was actually kind of like upset because my appointment was at 9:00, and I got in the car and the car wouldn't start. And I'm just like, bro, this is crazy. And it's like, I had to take the kids to school. Me and my wife, we had to take the kids to school. And then right after, I was going to go get a haircut. So the car wouldn't start, right? So we had to walk the kids to school. So I had my littlest one in the stroller. She's 4. And then I had my 8-year-old. She was like walking alongside the stroller. And we're like going up this hill. So it's kind of steep, right? And my little one, who was in the stroller, she's crying, she's fussing, she's kind of like losing her mind low key. And I'm like, what's up? And my wife is like, what's up? And she's like, I really want to walk. And we're like, baby, it's like really steep. Like you don't want to walk right now. Like you're chilling. You're in the stroller. Let me push you. Let me push you. And she said, Daddy, I want to walk. So we let her out the stroller. We let her walk, right? As soon as we let her out, I'm not kidding, y'all. 5 seconds after we're walking, she starts bawling, losing her mind, talking about, put me back in the stroller. We're like, yo, you just told us you wanted to get out. And she's losing her mind, wanting to go back in the stroller. And then finally we're like, all right, look, you can go back in the stroller, but you literally just told us you wanted to go out. So it's like you made that decision to get out and walk on your own. And now you're upset with us for allowing you to do that. We made the decision to go out and sin and be disobedient to God. And now we're upset at the ramifications that come with it. And I understand some things just don't make sense. I remember I quit my job. I had started this business on the side. It was just a little side hustle. Y'all remember there was just like big like craze back in the day of like this social media marketing thing, and where you would basically do social media marketing for businesses. And I got wrapped up and trapped into that whole, that whole thing, right? And so I'm working at this bank. I got my little bank job. I think I'm making, my little $18 per hour, which I was extremely happy with at that time. This was like some years ago. And I was like, yo, I'm chilling. My checks is looking right. I'm seeing like 1,200 every 2 weeks. I'm chilling. I'm like, bro, this is cool. This is great. I'm chilling. But I knew it wasn't where I was supposed to be. And this is actually the same job where I met my best friend, the one who introduced me to Jesus. This is that job. And I felt a calling on my heart to leave that job. And the reason why I felt a calling to leave that job is because my side hustle was popping. And I was starting to see a little bit of bread from it. And I was starting to get a little bit of clients from it. And I felt like God was telling me to leave, my secure, steady paycheck in order to chase this dream of being a business owner that I've always wanted to do, right? I quit the job. I put in my 2 weeks. As soon as I leave that job, everything falls apart. I'm talking, I lose all my clients. I'm not making any money. I had to go into my 401k. I didn't really have that much money in my 401k because I didn't really know how to what to do with it. I probably had like 7,000, which is a lot of money. But for the amount of time that I was working there, it really wasn't that much. I drained my whole 401k. I maxed out all of my credit cards, my line of credit. I'm talking like tens of thousands in debt, y'all. I remember going to Elliot's house, my best friend, where we worked at that bank job together. I went to his house one day and I was like, you know what, bro? I'm sick of this. I feel like God left me. God, you told me to leave this job. You know I had a family. You know I have bills. You know I have responsibilities. You know I'm not that guy to just up and leave and just put my family in a tough situation. But you still allowed me to do this. And I was praying to you every single day. And you let me fall, God. And it doesn't make any sense. I think I was even cussing out God too, right? I think there's some things in our life that simply don't make sense, but we can't blame God. But also look at where God has taken me and my family now. I think sometimes we got to zoom out. We're too hyper focused on what could have been. But let's zoom out in those moments. Let's zoom out. Look what God did in that situation. Look what he's still doing. Because the fact of the matter is, we don't deserve any of this. To be able to walk, to talk, to breathe, to see, to hear, to smell, we don't deserve any of this. But God gives it to us because he loves us. He gives us grace. He gives us free will. He gives us a choice, and he's patient. God could come and shut all of this down right now. He could say, you know what? Y'all messed up everything. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. Like, y'all out here doing things with your bodies and doing things. And this is not how it was supposed to be. I'm coming right now and I'm shutting this down. And he is coming back. But he could have came back a long time ago. But guess what? He's patient because he wants all of us to get to know him. He wants all of us to put our faith in Jesus Christ so that we can all be saved. He's still patient. Even in our sin, God is still patient. He's still loving. He still gives us grace. And we still want to turn around and be like, God, how could you do this to me? Listen, you hear that? How that sounds? God, how could you, the perfect, almighty, righteous King of this universe, how could you do this to me? It sounds crazy. But hey, I respect the clip. I respect it. Let's get to the next one. I think they're talking about relationships. Actually, let me play this one. This is he's talking about Prince. Let's see what's going on.
Prince came down to me and kneeled before me, and he said, here's my number, and I want you to come to Minneapolis and jam with me. And you know, I didn't go. It was so early on in my career, those voices from that church culture. Because, Prince, he'll do music in his drawers.
Yeah. I remember that.
He'll come to the studio on a G-string.
Yeah. The yellow, you remember the yellow with the butt out?
Cheeks out. His cheeks is out. And I didn't, so people seeing his cheeks out, I didn't want to be trying to argue, you know what, his cheeks is out, but he do good music. So I didn't even return them. I didn't even.
That's friends.
I didn't even take him up on all. He said, I want you to come to Minneapolis and jam, and I didn't do it, man. I didn't do it. He called the crib.
You got to go just to see Paisley Park.
I know. I want to. He called the crib. Bro, and kissed my baby and said hey to Tammy before he left, and And I let fear get in the way of me working with him.
So Prince was the one that you like, man. I mean, y'all might could have done a song together.
His cheeks was out. It was.
Ah, man, that ain't got nothing to do with that. The man, like you said, he was a genius.
Oh.
You talk about right.
Oh. But Prince musically, because Prince could play every instrument.
Yes.
And then he could go into the studio and engineer what he plays.
Right.
That's just a whole nother behemoth. That's yeah.
Who thinks of
You gonna walk around with your cheeks out if you can do all that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, his mind has to be.
Yeah.
Because you think about what Raspberry Beret and pink cashmere.
All of that.
The mind.
Genius.
It snows in April.
I
mean, Purple Rain. Under the Cherry Moon.
It snows in April. Just even that line.
Yeah.
And he was having that kind of line back in the 80s.
Yes. He was way ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Because the way he was thinking, I was like, who think that?
You remember Lady Cab Driver?
Yes.
Do you know that's him on drums?
Is it?
Listen to the boom, pack, boom, pack, boom, pack, boom, pack. Prince is playing drums.
Lady Cab Driver, won't you take me? Yeah.
Yes. Genius. Prince came down to me.
He said, but his cheeks were out. Listen, I didn't know Prince was running around like that. Y'all gotta let me know. Y'all older folks listening, you 40, 50, 60, 70, 80s, y'all watching it. I'm not talking about the year that y'all were born. I'm talking about your age. Prince was really walking around in blue G-strings and stuff. That's kind of crazy. I don't know what to make of that one. I don't know what to make about that clip. Hold on. Let me see if I got something to say about this one.
What are your thoughts on 50-50 relationships?
I'm old school.
See, that's me.
I'm old school. I'm going to pay for everything.
But hold on, if you pay for everything, are you expecting old school values in a new school woman? Because that's not how they're wired.
But they can be. I think that every woman would be grateful for a man to step up and take leadership in the right way. The problem is the lack of love, compassion, and the lack of still having a voice in your significant other is the thing that we as men fail at. It's because there is this authoritarian mindset that we also have that if I'm contributing and leading everything, that I contribute and lead everything.
Right.
But there still should be an equal voice and an opinion and view that we must consider, that we must acquiesce to at times, because there's a wisdom and a knowledge that a woman brings to the table that we benefit from. Okay. And so, but a lot of that is our own insecurities, right. A lot of the ways that we were raised.
I think that's a fact. I think every woman would love if their husband was a true leader and not a dictator. And what I mean by that was a true provider. And there was times where I was not that. I think every woman would love if their husband was a true protector, was a true minister of their household, and did those things with love and compassion. And put the ego aside, because I think, like, Kirk is saying, for men, if I'm paying the bills, if I'm holding it down, if I'm doing all this and that, XYZ, man, what I say goes. I don't want to hear nothing. What I say goes. That's it. That's pride. That's ego. But the Bible does say that we should love our wives as Christ loved the church, right? Right? Our wives are helpmates. It's not that we're better than women. Like, men are not better than women, but we have a calling to be leaders of our households, of our families. That's the calling that was given to us by God. Wives, submit to your husband. That's a calling that was given to women by God. But there's ways that we got to go about that. We have to do it in love. We can't do it in the form of a dictator, because, then that's when it starts to get manipulative. Then that's when it starts to get toxic. Then that's when it starts to get emotionally abusive. And then I think that's why you have so many women nowadays where it's like their thought process is, you know what, I'm gonna do it by myself. I could get money by myself. I could work by myself. I could take care of my family by myself. I don't need no man to do that. I'm straight. Because they're tired of being manipulated. They're tired of being emotionally and sometimes physically abused by men who are supposed to be leaders and who are supposed to be providers and who are supposed to be protectors, but they're not doing that with love. They're doing that a lot of the times with hate and malice in their hearts. And it's sad. But there are a lot of men, and even in my own life that I know, there's a lot of men that I know that are married, that have beautiful families, that love God, and they love their wives. They provide, they protect, and it's a true partnership. But at the same time, it's like they know what's up. Like, hey, I'm leading this household as a man, as a husband, and you have to trust that I'm connected to God. And that's where I'm getting my wisdom from. That's where I'm getting my direction, my discernment from. And that's what it's got to be. But let's continue.
What's a good place to take someone on a first date? There's this thing that's viral moment with the Cheesecake Factory.
I saw it.
And how much should one spend?
I think the best place to go on a first date is to ask her where she want to go.
Oh, no. No.
Why?
Big in, big
Why?
out.
Why?
Because she says, I want to go to this 5-star restaurant where you already know if you just order the water, it's $50.
But what's wrong with her saying that? What's
wrong with me saying no? No.
So, first of all, I'm trying to figure out what's the problem with that.
Ain't no problem. It ain't no problem with her asking. Ain't no problem with me saying no. So now, what's the next question? Where can we go?
Why are you saying no?
Because here's the thing.
Okay, give it to me. Why are you saying no?
If I start you here, where do I go after here?
That ain't necessarily true.
It is.
Oh, it ain't just true. Watch it. Man, peeking. You know what? I got to give you youngsters game. Y'all ain't got no game. Here it is. You can say there easily, okay, baby girl, I'm finna take you to this place you want to, but I'm finna let you know, this place is so mad expensive. I'm doing it because I want to impress you, to let you know that I got you. Hold on, let me finish. I got you, but I ain't gonna be able to do this all the time. And make a joke out of it, make it light, keep it cool, keep it fun. Because see, let me tell you what wins a woman every time. Make her laugh. Make a joke out of it. Make it light, man.
Make her laugh.
Have you ever seen the ugliest dude with the prettiest chick?
Yeah,
because he keep her laughing. Women love to laugh.
I'm using a bit of a link. Girl, I ain't taking you to that place because I ain't got the money. Girl, we finna go down here to Chili's or Applebee's or something. Crazy. But that's the thing, though, Kirk. It's kind of like
that don't mean that. That don't mean that she gonna want that every time. It don't.
We not wired like that. Once you get established at a level. Now, if you'd have got let's just say for the sake of argument, in 1993, your first car is a Rolls Royce. You not going back down. You not lowering that, going down from that. Moving up.
But what I'm saying, first of all, I'm not Stephen A. And so I'm on a.
Hold on. I'm thinking about my first date with my wife. I took her to Noodles and Company. I don't know if y'all know what Noodles and Company is, but it's not like it's like a fast food restaurant, essentially. But you sit down in there and you order your little noodles and stuff like that. And I don't know how much it was. It could have been like $40 or something like that. It wasn't nothing like crazy expensive. I remember we got our food and she's eating her food. I'm sitting there. I was so nervous, bro. I wasn't even eating. She was like, "Are you going to eat your food?" I was like, I wasn't even trying to lie. I was like, you know what? I'm really nervous. I can't even eat my food right now. Like, you look so good. So I'm just trying to say, look, hey, y'all can use that if you want to use that. If y'all want to use that line, I'm telling you, it's tested, it's proven, it'll work for you. All right, go ahead, go take her wherever you gotta take her. Order some food and then don't eat the food and then be like, hey, I was nervous, baby. Like, you look so good. Like, it's gonna win them over every time. Cause you know what I'm saying? Like, just try it. Just try it. Let's continue.
Thank you so much. I'm saying to you that
now you on the couch.
And then first of all, let me also say this. Is I think that if you are taking a girl out and a girl is going out with a guy, that there's not even a relationship to be able to laugh and play with it, even in the process, y'all ain't the ones for each other anyway, because the best relationship that's going to make it are the ones that are friends.
Oh, okay. So what's the first question? So what's the first question I should ask on a date then?
The problem is men, we're so enamored by the physical nature of a woman that we don't even start asking nothing else. We're just looking at the booty. We're looking at the breast. We're looking at her neck. We're looking at her feet. We're looking at her
Nah, I ain't
toe.
looking at no feet. Nah, ain't nobody looking at no feet.
You're looking at feet? I'm looking at feet. I'm looking at feet.
So do you go on a date to get married?
I don't believe in that as much as I know that a lot of Christians push that narrative. I don't believe that marriage has to be the sum total of a person's existence. I don't believe that.
That seems to be the overwhelming thing now.
And I think it's unfortunate. It's because, first of all, about sheer numbers. There's going to be many, many beautiful women that will never get married just on the sheer numbers. There's more women than men.
Right.
So if we make humans feel like that your sum total of purpose and existence is in the space of a marriage, then we fail all of the beautiful people that will be single, that are single,
right.
that God can't use them, that there's no purpose for their life, and that there's no plan, and that they can't live fulfilled lives.
Right.
So you can be able to date and still put parameters on if you want to be active or not, how much you want to give of yourself, so you can be able to still enjoy beautiful relationships. And it doesn't mean that you got to be walking out of your mind, marriage.
Right.
It's because not getting married is not a sin.
Oh, okay.
Well, it depends on what he means by it depends on what he means by you can still date and enjoy beautiful relationships. It depends on what exactly you mean by that. If you're talking about from like a, emotional standpoint of, hey, we could kick it, we could talk, we could connect, we can have really great, fruitful conversations, we can make each other laugh. Okay, cool. But if you're talking about from like a physical standpoint, like you talking about, you sleeping together and stuff like that, and not having any that, what I'm saying? Like, we can't be out here promoting adultery. Not everyone's going to get married. And Apostle Paul said that. Apostle Paul said, it's better to be single. It's better to be single. Then you could just focus on God. You could just study. It's just you and the Lord. And that's better. But if y'all can't handle that, if y'all ain't got no self-control, if y'all going to be, running around looking at everything that moves, then go ahead and get you one and settle down. And get married. Get married. And that's the case for most people. Like, most people don't have the self-control to like just chill out and just focus on God and just let that be the relationship that you are solely focused on. Most people don't have that level of self-control. So like, we can't be out here promoting just like casual like hookup. Like, we gotta understand, like, we have to be very intentional as Christians. We have to date to marry. We have to date to marry. Number one, we ain't got a lot of time, y'all. They ain't a lot of time. Like, if you're dating, why are you wasting your time with somebody who is not going to be the person who's going to pour into your life, edify you, and point you towards Christ? Why are you wasting your time? Like, let's be very intentional as Christians and date to marry. Let's not just promote, fornication. If that's what he means. Like, I don't know if I'm reading that correctly or not.
It ain't a sin.
Right.
And so we got to stop making everything black and white. Marriage is not on the same level as salvation. It ain't. And so you got to be able to have friends with people, and you can be able to establish the boundaries of what the friendship needs to look like, how far it needs to go before it crosses over. And if something beautiful turns out of that turns into a marriage, it's a beautiful thing. Right. Marriage can be a beautiful thing, but it's not the sum total of a person's existence.
But let me ask you a question. This open marriage, can a marriage survive with openness?
I don't know why a person would want to be married then. Just don't be married.
Yeah.
Just don't be married. Just be other. Be something other. And, like, Like I said, I think that the social constructs we form, it's almost like our generation, Shan. If you are a 30-year-old woman, even to this now, if you a 30-year-old woman still single and you go to a family reunion, all the old ladies are gonna pressure you.
Girl, why you ain't married? Where your man? Where your husband?
All of these social constructs that we put the pressure on people for things that they may not be ready for.
Right.
And that does not make them wrong.
Right.
That just makes them not you.
What are your thoughts on 50-50?
Yeah, no, I don't think it does. I don't think it makes them wrong, but I think we just have to understand, like, being single is actually a blessing. I think the society that we live in, the culture that we live in, it looks at being single as like a negative. But being single is a blessing because you have time to really learn and grow within your relationship with God. And you don't have to focus on, another person, right? Being married is also a blessing too. But, being single and really taking your time and really learning who you are and who God created you to be and the calling that God has for you and really understanding what the voice of God sounds like in your own life, because everybody's different. We all have our own unique relationship with God. That season of singleness is really a blessing. Don't let people trick you into thinking that it's a negative thing, because this world will definitely do that. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it, man. Look, like I said, I don't think everything he said was bad. Now, he says some crazy stuff. The cheeks comment, y'all, you could have kept that one, Kirk. I don't need to know. I still feel kind of violated that you over here making songs for Jesus and you just straight cheeks. You know what I'm saying? But he says some stuff that I think we can learn from if we look at it in the right, perspective and with the right discernment. And like I said, man, instead of us always looking for the negative and what is this person going to say? And, let's just try to take a deep breath and understand, like, we're all flawed beings, right? And let's pray for people more than we, are looking to rebuke them. Let's pray for them first. And if that doesn't work, then hey, I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to be nicer this new year. I'll try to be nicer. Let me know what y'all think. Get in my comments, like this video. I'm out, y'all.